Hey everybody, welcome to the Niners news update this week. Coming off a big win over Seattle, 27-7. Thank the Lord. After after a week,
after what happened with Trey and week one, like you were gonna say, at
yeah,
least you came away with a nice 20-point victory, led
yeah,
by
yeah,
who know it other than Jimmy Jesus.
yeah. Jimmy Jesus resurrecting his career, and on the sideline, resurrecting his career when we needed him the most there. And obviously, this is why you keep him. Obviously, a lot of people question the decision to keep Jimmy and restructure his deal on that $6.5 million deal. I know that you can go back and watch any of the Niners news updates in the past, and I have said, and I think you've said the same thing,
Both
that we
of
didn't
us.
feel good about
Yeah.
moving forward with Nate Sudfeld. In the event that this happened. So
Not
obviously,
at all.
let's get into that. Yeah, obviously Trey broke an ankle. He had successful surgery. He is expected to make a full recovery, but he is going to miss the remainder of the 2022 season. Now, obviously, he was injured on the second drive of the game when we were in the red zone. He ended up. It was on a quarterback run. Debo had just taken a long run up the sideline for like 52 yards, and I think he ran on the quarterback option. The next play went right up the gut and ended up like kind of getting stuck in a pile, and his ankle got twisted under him, and it broke. It wasn't a compound fracture, thank God, but still,
Still bad, still
still a rough.
season ending, but it's easier to come
Yeah.
back from, I would imagine, than a compound fracture.
Yeah. So Jimmy came in and ended up leading the charge. Obviously, he played from the second drive of the game on. The second drive that he was in there, we came away with a field goal and went up 6-0 on Seattle. And then on the next drive, Jimmy ends up hitting a nice deep throw to Ross Dwelly for a touchdown pass. And really, at no point was Seattle really. They ended up scoring one touchdown all game, and it was on a blocked field goal in the third quarter of the game. Obviously, coming away
That
with
blocked
27.
field goal, though, that shit was nice. I
It was
gotta
nice.
say,
It was
that
nice.
was like probably the one bright spot of the day for them. And like,
Yeah.
damn, that shit. I remember when I saw it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
He just got right
Yeah.
in there and bounced perfectly in the guy's hands. I was like, oh
Yeah.
no, they're gonna get to return that shit.
And our special teams of unit obviously notoriously bad last year. So you definitely don't like to see that being given up. We do have a new special teams coach in Brian Schneider. He's supposed to, as well as
I would say that particular, yes, it wasn't great, but that was
just
that guy that was the guy that blocked the kick.
It was just
Like,
great
that
effort. Yeah.
The way he came off the line, dude, oh my god, like that, it was
Yeah.
totally him alone. And then like it got
Yeah.
a good bounce, and I wouldn't say that like is anything on the special teams to say that there may not be they may not be very good again, but I think that was just a spectacular effort on their.
Yeah,
on their
I think personally through the first 2 weeks of the season, that's one thing I was going to say. I think that the special teams have looked better than they did under Coach Hightower. Obviously we did go out and get like Oren Burks, the linebacker, George Odom at safety, and then Ray McLeod. So we got some guys to help on special teams as well. But yeah, that was kind of surprising because it was a short field goal too. So and that was really like the last thing you expected. But good on them. They made a great play. Obviously, we ended up snapping a 4-game losing streak to the Seahawks. They'd beaten us 4 straight times, including both times the last 2 years. So great to come away with that win. A few things we'll get into here is obviously we've mentioned before Jimmy's contract very incentive based. So Jimmy earning a bonus of $350,000 for any week that he plays over 25% of the snaps, which you think moving forward will be most weeks, and that's how he's got the opportunity
every week, basically. Yeah,
Yeah,
unless
I
he
mean,
gets hurt,
unless
God forbid.
God,
Yeah,
God
God forbid.
forbid.
Oh, I didn't say
God
that out loud.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because like if Brock Purdy now is the backup. Like let's mention that Brock Purdy now the number 2.
Mr.
So
Irrelevant, number 2.
yeah,
Look at that. Back
so,
up on the
so
49ers.
yeah, I know.
Good job, Brock Purdy. Look at you go.
He's made
Moving
quite
up.
the ascension. He's made quite the ascension, dude. He
He
really
has.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm not even being sarcastic. I'm being
From a guy
genuinely
that we
serious.
didn't even know if he was going to make the roster. Yeah, I know. Brock Purdy. I mean, absolutely.
It's more a situation kind of thing as to why, but still, it's funny.
Right. Exactly. But he did make the roster. He impressed enough over Sudfeld. They could have kept Sudfeld, and they kept him.
Yeah, well, they already know what Sudfeld's about, so I think they going with a rookie is always a better choice.
And he's cheaper, so it always helps.
That too.
So, obviously, with Trey going down, and, we certainly wish Trey well. Thoughts and prayers to Trey, because, I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
It would have been great to see what he could have done. I mean, obviously, through the first 2 weeks of the season, he didn't look phenomenal, but there was opportunity there. I mean, there was definitely something. I think over the season he would have grown. Absolutely. I mean, he's a smart player. I think it was, bound to happen. But with his, with the loss of Trey comes a new opportunity. And we did have to go out and get another quarterback now, since we do only have 2. And the Niners worked out several quarterbacks, including Mike Glennon, famed backup Mike Glennon. Yeah.
The neck.
Also, the neck. Also, former Green Bay Packer backup Kirk Benkert. AJ McCarron, the former Bengals backup.
Name? Never heard that guy's name, but
Kurt Benkert, yeah.
Benkert.
Yeah.
That's got to be annoying. That's got to be rough.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for him.
So, and then Garrett Gilbert, former Cowboy backup, and then Kevin Hogan.
I remember him.
Yeah. So all those guys worked out, and one of them actually did sign to the practice squad. It was Kirk Benkert. Or Benkert.
Oh my God!
I'm gonna have to get used to that. Yeah. So Kirk Benkert
I know. That's
on
why
the
I
roster
said
now.
I'm like I feel bad for him, man. Every teacher in his life had a hard time with that one. Like shit.
I keep wanting to say Ben Kirk, but it's Ben Kurt. But yeah, Kirk,
it'd be
Kurt,
easier if it was just Kurt.
It would be easier.
You know what? Fuck
that's
it.
what
I
want to say. That's what I want to say each time. So, yeah, he's now the number 3. So hopefully there's no situation on the earth where we have to see him active for a game, and Jimmy can just finish the season off for us. And Jimmy's kind of got like redemption. He's got one more season to get a Super Bowl run in him. I mean, for 2 near trips to the NFC Championship and then 1 to the Super Bowl. I mean, this is Jimmy's last chance with the Niners potentially. And if he balls out, I mean, we've seen situations where you draft the young guy, and the young guy doesn't always necessarily have to take over. I mean, that's the way that it's perceived. But if Jimmy has a good season and the Niners come out and win the Super Bowl, I mean, look at what's going on in Green Bay. I mean, how long is it supposed to have been, Jordan Love that's taken over there?
Yeah, I mean, like he's probably going to retire from the NFL before that happens. Well, no. I mean, Aaron's only probably got a couple years left, but still.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably eventually get a chance to play, but who knows if it's going to be with the Packers, if his contract will be up before Aaron. But I think he'll eventually get the opportunity. And then, as I mentioned, Trey Lance obviously going on IR for what's expected to be the rest of the season. That opened up a roster spot, and Kyle was able to bring back a familiar face who most recently was on the New York Jets in Tevin Coleman. So obviously Tevin Coleman was signed to the practice squad. We recently elevated Marlon Mack, who we just got from the Texans and who had previously been with the Colts. So that in anticipation of us being without Tyrion Davis-Price for the next couple weeks, because Tyrion Davis-Price made his debut. He played in his first NFL game against the Seahawks, and he got off to a pretty decent start. I mean, he ended up getting stuffed a few times later on, but he did end up leaving the game with a high ankle sprain. But before he did, he had 14 carries for 33 yards. But now with that high ankle sprain, he's probably going to miss about 4 to 6 weeks. I think that's the usual time frame for the high ankle sprain. So we're bringing up Marlon Mack, and then we're bringing in Tevin Coleman as well. He's a guy that knows the offense, and he's really been running the same offense because over with the Jets, Salah and they're running that same offense over there. So he's played in that offense real recently. So definitely a good get for us. Happy to have Tevin Coleman back. He's been a decent player for us in the past.
Yeah, definitely.
And then before I get into the game, just to mention a couple other things. There were a huge amount of 49ers nominated for the 2023 Pro Football Hall of Fame. Obviously, these are just nominations. Doesn't mean that these guys are going to get in. And those 11 former 49ers that were nominated for the 2023 Hall of Fame are former defensive end Justin Smith, former 49er quarterback Jeff Garcia, linebacker Patrick Willis, former running back Ricky Watters, Patrick Willis's famed defensive backfield mate Navarro Bowman, Anquan Bolden, the wide receiver, Takeo Spikes, linebacker, tight end Wesley Walls, safety Merton Hanks, kicker Gary Anderson, and safety Tim McDonald. So hopefully all or a lot of those guys can get in. Obviously, the Pro Football Hall of Fame can be a notorious bitch to get into sometimes. Yeah, as we've seen with certain players. So hopefully some of them are able to crack the code and get in there and make it. But definitely just wanted to acknowledge that they've been nominated because that's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome.
Yep, congratulations.
Yeah, and then okay, and then just before we get into the game, last thing here I want to mention was so obviously we've talked about Trey getting hurt in a little bit of depth here on that run. Kyle was questioned by reporters after the game, and you could tell Kyle was pretty irritated because he kept getting asked, you know how the media is, they ask the same type of question like 10 different ways. Right. And they're like, oh, well, do you think you put him at risk? And Kyle basically said something that he's like, listen, he's like, do you guys watch other teams in the league? He's like, other teams like Buffalo runs that same kind of offense with their quarterback. He's like, we're not putting Trey at any more risk than anybody else. And I found this stat here that I'll put up on the screen that goes for teams with carries between the tackles in 2021 for quarterbacks. So Josh Allen, who was the one that he referenced specifically, 64 out of 124 carries, which is about half, really just right about half, were between the tackles. Lamar Jackson, 68 out of 124, again about half. Jalen Hurts, 55 out of 132, a little under half. Kyler, 24 out of 73, so about a quarter. Or no, I'm sorry, 33%, I'd say, for Kyler. My bad. And then for Trey Lance, 19 out of 36. So really not anything that, he's right, not really doing anything. I mean, injuries happen in football. I mean, anything can happen at any point. And the way that he got twisted up on and kind of caught in the pile, it's not hard to see why his ankle snapped. I mean, it was a pretty rough injury. I mean, I know that we put a video up of that happening on the screen, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a situation where Kyle was putting him in any more harm's way than any other coach. But obviously, critical Niner fans were tweeting and trending with Fire Shanahan was something that was coming out on Sunday. So even though the Niners won, people were calling for Kyle's job.
Dumb fans out there.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see how. I mean, injuries happen. Like Jimmy doesn't get those plays, and he's had numerous injuries where his season's been cut short. So, I mean, injuries happen in the NFL. They can happen to any player at any time. I mean, you never know when that's going to happen. It's impossible to. Yeah.
You cannot control that.
Absolutely. But I mean, we'll just get into the game real quick. Obviously, we did come away with the win, even though we lost Trey. So a little bit of a bittersweet win, but we are officially 1-1 now. And for the game, Trey, before being injured, was 2 out of 3 passing for 30 yards. He had 3 runs for 13 yards. Jimmy, after he ended up coming in, was 13 of 21 for 154 yards. 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Gino was 24 of 30 for 197 yards. No touchdowns, 1 pick. For the Seahawks, we held the Seahawks rushing offense to 36 yards on 14 carries. So good for a 2.6 yard average. So
Jesus.
Definitely shut down their run game.
Yeah.
So Niners defense has been looking good. Nick Bosa had 2 sacks. So he went off as you'd expect. Through 3 weeks of the season, Nick Bosa already has 3 sacks. So hoping to improve on, he had 15.5 last year. Maybe he can get 20 this year. That'd be cool. Jeff Wilson ended up being the leading rusher with 18 carries for 84 yards. And he's really going to have to step up now that Elijah Mitchell and Tyrion Davis-Price are going to miss some time. Obviously, we did mention Marlon Mack, and we also have Jordan Mason, and we brought in Tevin Coleman. So we do have other options, but at this point, hopefully we don't keep losing a running back a week, because that would fucking be disastrous. And I mean, we can't keep that up. I mean, that's that attrition rate is just too great if that were to happen. The leading receiver was Ayuk with 63 yards. Debo had 5 catches for 44 yards. Jimmy also had a rushing touchdown on a quarterback sneak. Juszczyk had a rushing touchdown. The Niners ran for 189 yards rushing, so another great effort on the day. I mean, we definitely far exceeded what Seattle did. Dre Greenlaw was the leading tackler. He ended up, really playing well, and this is on the heels of him recently getting a 2-year contract extension. I wanted to mention that as well. So, big play Dre getting a 2-year contract extension, but he was the leading tackler in that game. Talanoa Hufanga balled out again after having 11 tackles week 1. Yeah, after 11 tackles week 1, he had 6 tackles in the second week of the season. He had a deflected pass, which ended up getting intercepted by Tayshaun Gibson Sr., and then new acquisition from the Chiefs, Charvarius Ward, also had a pick. So the Niners have 3 interceptions through the first 2 weeks of the season as well. And yeah, I mean, Hufanga's playing great. I mean, I don't know that right now on the Niners defense, other than maybe Bosa, that anybody's playing better than him. So, I mean, he's had... There's only one safety in, you know how Pro Football Focus ranks the top-rated players every week at each position?
Yeah.
Under Minka Fitzpatrick for the Steelers, Talanoa Hufanga is the second highest rated safety in football right now. So
nice. Hell yeah.
Doesn't get much higher than that. And Brian Baldinger, who's a longtime NFL analyst and former NFL player, has said that Talanoa Hufanga actually reminds him of a young Troy Polamalu, which is huge praise. I mean, you know how good Polamalu was.
Hell yeah, dude. Nice.
I mean, yeah, so that'd be a good get. I mean, he was good enough that we really liked Jaquiski Tart. We kept Jaquiski Tart around for years, despite Jaquiski having injury problems. But within one season, Talanoa was good enough that he came over as a rookie and showed Kyle enough and the defensive staff enough that, after one season, that Jaquiski was expendable and that he could be the starter there. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, so that's that game. I mean, we killed the Hawks, ended the 4-game losing streak to them. Pete looked like he was really not having a good time at all. So you love to see that. It's going to be kind of like playing the Hawks again, though, for the second straight week, because in week 3, we have the Sunday night football game against the Denver Broncos. So we can't get away from Russ. We're going to get to see him again. But although we're getting him at a good time, I think, guys, because he's really not looked good through 2 weeks of the season. I mean, the Broncos
he
offense has in
not.
2 games scored 17 and 16 points. So, I mean, they really have not been very offensively explosive. And I mean, Russell was getting booed in his own building in just his second start. I mean, Broncos country already getting sick of him in his second game, booing the man. So definitely, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, I would expect that the Broncos eventually get it on track, but hopefully it's not.
Hopefully
this
not
week. I mean,
this week, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they do possess a lot of weapons. They've got 2 good running backs. They've got Javonte Williams. They've got Melvin Gordon. They've got Russ, obviously. And then they've got Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Kendall Hinton, who are good wide receivers. But Charvarius Ward's playing, lights out. I mean, he's allowed the lowest completion percentage since 2021 at 44.6%. Obviously, some of that going back to Kansas City and then 2 games with us. But him and Emmanuel Mosley balling out at corner. And especially, at some point we're supposed to get Jason Verrett back as well at corner. So hopefully that makes our good defense even better. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can make it 2 in a row against Denver. Denver's got some weapons. Denver's got a good defense. They've got Bradley Chubb as a pass rusher. If the game comes down to a field goal, they've obviously got a very good field goal kicker in Brandon McManus. But, we've got Robbie, who's very good. Brandon McManus just has a little bit of a stronger leg. Robbie's just, Robbie's pretty solid inside 50. You can rely on that man most of the time. But, yeah, I mean, it should be a pretty good game. I mean, I think that we're going to come away with the win, especially, the team seemed revitalized with Jimmy in there. Did you see how happy the players were? They were all smiling.
I would expect, yeah.
I mean, it was a different kind of energy. I mean, I'm not, saying that, Trey's obviously going to get his job back, I would assume, at some point, but that locker room loves Jimmy. I mean, there's just something about it. I mean, you can say what you want about the man's physical limitations as a quarterback, but nobody can ever say that Jimmy hasn't been the best possible teammate since day one, since he came here, and how he's handled everything. From, like losing his job to them drafting Trey. I mean, he's been the consummate professional. I mean, and I'm grateful as hell to have him. So hopefully, 10 can lead us to a win. I mean, he does win like 70% of the games he starts.
Yeah, so, right? I think he'll be good. I think you got this week in the bag.
Yeah. All right. Well, join us next week. We will definitely recap what ends up happening with the Broncos game. And, all the other games as well. Hopefully it gives us the opportunity to get up a couple games on these other NFC West teams. The Rams haven't looked very good. I mean, they've been allowing a lot of points in these 2 games. So I'm hoping that, this is the start of their downfall. Eventually paying all that money to everybody and not having draft picks has to fuck you eventually. And, hopefully this is the start of that downfall. And then the Cardinals had to come back from, what seemed like 100 points down. So, yeah, I mean, I think this could be our year. I mean, I'm not just saying that. I really feel like we could get this done. I mean, we've got a good team and got Jimmy in there. I mean, he's got the experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think you got a better chance getting there with Jimmy than Trey. I mean, Trey needed time. Jimmy he's already good. So. Well, I'm not,
yeah,
you know what I mean. He's a veteran. He knows the system. You know what you're gonna get with him, and it's generally, like you said, winning games 70% of the time.
And the last thing that we'll leave you with is, obviously this is the first action we've seen of him since last season, and the shoulder looks good. I mean, the arm looked live, so
yeah.
I mean, no setbacks from what we can see. So let's go. Here we go, week 3. Hopefully we can come away with another win. But thanks for joining us this week. And that's going to do it for the Extra Point Show this week. Make sure that you subscribe if you're not already. It really helps us out and helps us grow. Give us a like as well.
Absolutely. And if you're a Washington fan or a San Francisco fan, make sure to always check out the Commanders Countdown and the Niners News Update.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.